Sis, it's good to be here with you today. And let me get my PowerPoint up here. Let's see. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's such a wonderful week for me personally because having this disability summit last Friday, we're celebrating almost 20 years. We're getting close to 20 years, 2 decades of disability summits for Indian country in Arizona. And now, with the result of having Zoom and the reality of COVID making us go digitally, it allows us to have many other brothers and sisters join us from outside of the state of Arizona. So, welcome to all of you throughout the nation that have joined us today. And this American Indian Youth Summit is a wonderful outcome and byproduct, if you will, of the Disability Summit that we created years ago. As Kim shared, there was about 12 of us in a talking circle, and that was something I did hosting a talking circle throughout the nation in various states. And in California, they actually started the Disability Summit as well for Indian country. Unfortunately, they lasted 5 years and weren't able to continue. But it's a testament to the strength of the Arizona tribes in terms of keeping that going, as well as our non-Indian partners that help support our efforts in Indian country. California has many, many tribes as well, and there's a great need. So I hope California Department of Rehabilitation starts to host those summits again as well for our tribal members in California. Here with the Arizona experience, it was wonderful to call my friend Mark Harrison, and he was a friend of mine. He went to Oklahoma, and he was a football fan, and he interviewed me as an American Indian athlete, as a student at Oklahoma, and our moms knew each other, so that's when our paths crossed, and I became a mentor for him, and he did wonderful things. Unfortunately, he made his journey too early, and but the footprints that he left is wonderful in terms of services for Indian people, particularly in the Phoenix area. So when I want to share my story, as you see here, you see the medicine wheel philosophy. You've seen many other circular philosophies from Arizona tribes as well. And this is something that Wayne and I follow from a Lakota perspective. And I named my company Warrior Society Development because that's what I feel part of my mission in life is to develop our future warriors that will be advocates for Indian country, for disability, for education and inclusion, for equity over equality, if you will, so that we're fully an inclusive society. And it's wonderful to see the young ones today. And I want to share some of my family history with you so you can see how I was raised. And of course, giving respect to my family as well. Red Cloud is one of our leaders from the Oglala Lakota. And in 1872, him and 16 other tribal leaders went to Washington, D.C. to negotiate peace with President Grant. So we're very fortunate that Alex Gardner from the trustees from the Blackmore Museum in Salisbury, England, was in town, was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and they were very interested in Native people, indigenous people. So they ended up getting pictures of all 17 leaders. And this is Red Cloud and my grandfather, Stabber. So my mom is named after Grandpa Stabber. My son, Ryan, is named after Grandpa Stabber. So as Wayne shared, we are related through Grandpa Stabber and the life that he lived in a good way. You can see that he lived to be 70 years old. And that's a nice, rich, long life, particularly for those days. But unfortunately, the reality of today on Pine Ridge, the average life expectancy of Indian men is 48 years old. So that is today in 2021. So that should be a public health crisis, in my opinion, but it doesn't seem to be getting much attention on the national scale. Let's hope some things change with the new administration, and having actual American Indian people in roles of leadership will change some of those things. I'll talk more about that later. Here's Kills on Horseback. Toshunko Kawachakte is my name. And this is the grandfather that I'm named after. And it's wonderful to have these old pictures of our family so that we can remember them and honor them in our current generation. And here's one of our true leaders of the family was May Stabber Featherman. Unchi, our grandma, she was a very strong woman. And here you see her holding a newborn with a horse dressed up. The tail is tied and there's regalia on the horse. So this is a celebration of a newborn in my family. Here's my parents that got married in Rapid City, South Dakota. And here are my grandparents, my mom's parents. And there's me, a little baby Huey there. So I was an oversized kid. I was always the chubby, big kid. And I'm sure Grandpa Louis there is saying, hurry up, take the picture. This little baby's heavy. So this is back in Pine Ridge, and you see the old military Quonset hunts that families would live in with some of the housing provided back in those days. And there's my dad, Jim Sr., the rock of our family, the center of our family for many years with his disability with MS. So this is at my brother's wedding, and we're celebrating my brother's marriage as well as being together as a family with our ribbon shirts. So dreams for you kids out there, as well as you adults, we all still have dreams. I'm still dreaming of my Academy Award. You never know. Who knows? That may happen still. So again, think about what is your dream. Just take a second and what is a dream out there that you have? It could be job related or just something that you want to be or something that you want to experience. What is your dream? You can share if you want on the chat. So let me see if I can turn my chat on. No, I can't, I guess. So anyways, I'll look at the chat later. But my dream, I had many dreams when I was young. And I like this image here of an iceberg. And the majority of that iceberg is underwater. So I use this a lot when I work with youth, particularly in my youth camps, life skills and athletic camps. So when you think of success, success is this iceberg. And then what you see underneath is what people don't know what you went through to get to the level that you're at today. So I've been very fortunate in my life to have opportunities to live my dreams. But would I have achieved my dreams if I just would have sat on the couch and just dreamed about them and did nothing? Well, of course not. You know, we all have dreams, but to make them come true, we have to work hard. We have to have dedication. We have to have good habits. What are your habits? Are they good or bad? We all have good or bad habits. We must deal with disappointment. We must sacrifice things that we cannot, you know, you may want to go out and have fun with your friends, but you need to pass that exam next week. So you're going to stay home and study because you have a mission in life. You've made that your decision. So there will be failures. I've failed many, many times. Michael Jordan is famous for saying he's missed many more shots than he's made, yet he's made some big shots. That's why he's famous as an athlete, as a basketball player. And then of course, persistence. You got to every day look at yourself in the mirror. Every day, I know you're looking at yourself in the mirror as you get ready in the morning, but every day say what you're going to do to make a positive step that day to make a difference in your life. So again, many people will see, oh, what a wonderful life you have with this above water iceberg, but they don't see all of that hard work and dedication and disappointment and things that happened along the way. One of my dreams was being a professional football player. I wanted to play in the NFL because I was always an oversized kid. Many would think that, oh, you're going to be a football player someday. And one of my heroes was Jim Thorpe. I think we all know Jim Thorpe as the greatest athlete in American history because nobody has come close to what he did as an athlete, not only professionally, but in the Olympics and then at Carlisle in college. He was an amazing athlete that even Dwight D. Eisenhower, who played against him, acknowledged what a great player that he was. Here in the Olympics and professional baseball and everything, he did everything well. He even won a ballroom dancing contest. So Jim Thorpe could do it all. So it's wonderful to have a native indigenous person identified as the greatest athlete in American history. And until another athlete succeeds in professional baseball, professional football, and the Olympics at the level that he did, there's no one coming close to him as the best in history. Here's one of my personal heroes back home in Billy Mills. He is Oglala Lakota, and he is the only American still to ever win the decathlon in the Olympics. So this is wonderful to have a role model from home that I was able to look up to and to strive to be the best that I could be as an athlete. So I was living my dreams and I worked hard, and here I am in the Rose Bowl in 1987 at Arizona State University. So this was a wonderful accumulation of all that hard work, not only from high school and in college, but this is thousands of hours of working out, of trying to eat good and staying out of trouble, choosing the right people to hang out with. All of these things accumulated into this one day, New Year's Day in 1987. I was able to be on the Rose Bowl team. So what a wonderful experience as a 21 or 22-year-old, I guess I was back then, to be able to do this and then get drafted in the NFL after that. So the Hula Bowl, I got to play in the Hula Bowl All-Stars. This is a Sports Illustrated article where they had my hair down and they wanted me to look like a big, mean Indian. So there's me pretending to be a big, mean Indian for Sports Illustrated. But these are some of the things that that hard work can come out of. And here's our 30th anniversary. 30 years ago, they're still honoring us for the Rose Bowl team. Here's me and our quarterback and one of the media people interviewing us at the Legends Luncheon, where a bunch of fans came together to celebrate the Rose Bowl team. And it's wonderful to be one of the players they asked to speak. So I was able to represent the Oglala Lakota and indigenous people in a good way as one of those players. Now, after football, I wanted to have a career like Jim Brown or Alex Karras or some of these, Fred Dreyer, who I actually worked with in Hunter. But I was hoping to have a long football career and move on into Hollywood. Well, it didn't turn out that way. NFL, in my case, stood for not for this Lakota or not for long, because I bounced around 4 teams in the NFL and ended up in NFL Europe and arena football. So I call myself a football refugee because I played in 3 different professional leagues. But it did lead me on to my next dream, which was arts and entertainment in Hollywood. This movie, The Substitute, I play a Seminole contracted killer. So these are various countries that the movie has played in: Germany, Spain, Portugal, different, and the United States, of course. So this was another dream of mine to be able to be in a Hollywood film. But what I found was frustration as an actor. I did not like the roles that I was playing because I was using the money I was making from Hollywood to pay for my master's degree at this point. Because I was fortunate to get my bachelor's degree with my football scholarship. Now I had an opportunity, along with my parents helping me, to help pay for my master's degree portraying these bad guys in movies. So it got frustrating to have to do that. So I decided to quit acting and stunt work, and then took a break. But then eventually circumstances led me back into entertainment, and I could become a producer, a director, and a writer for films. So I was fortunate that my 7th generation lecture was seen at the Seminole tribe in Florida. And the Seminole media wanted to partner with me to make this film. So it was just a good situation where I was presenting for disability and Indian issues. And then they saw my 7th generation presentation and approached me to make this film. And what a wonderful honor it is, again, to honor my mom in this case, who taught me the Lakota way. And this film is dedicated to my mom, who you see there on this DVD cover. So again, the 7th generation is a lecture I was doing for years, and I was going, man, I would love to be able to make a movie. I'd love to be behind the camera. And then the opportunity presented itself, and fortunately I was ready to go for it, if you will. So another one of my dreams is, how can I impact Indian country in a good way? What can I do to improve Indian country? So I never thought that I would be at Bureau of Indian Affairs and all these federal agencies and presenting before Congress at the Senate and be on C-SPAN representing Indian people. This is another dream of mine, to be able to use my indigenous knowledge to teach our non-Indian brothers and sisters, particularly in the federal agencies. And here with the US Department of Interior, the BIA, it's wonderful. Here's Wayne and I and my wife Jill from the Hoopa tribe in Northern California, but we're here with Secretary Deb Haaland. And this is a great day for Indian country, because this is the first time in history that a US president has chosen a Native person to be the lead of the Department of Interior, to be a secretary in the cabinet. So it took a long time, and I was fortunate to meet Deb Haaland, and she's a wonderful person with a strong and good heart, and she'll represent Indian people in a good way. So dreams, how can I achieve my dream? So when you thought about your dreams, did you think of what can I do to make them happen? So again, it's self-worth. How do you feel about yourself? Again, remember, look in the mirror, and after you see how good looking you are, you can start telling yourself, what am I going to do today to make myself better? What am I going to do today to get towards my dream? Because it all accumulates. Every day you do something positive, that turns into thousands of days of positive steps working towards your dream. And that is empowerment. So again, that self-worth, it's in all of us. We're born with it. And we will never lose who we are as Indigenous people. And that's what I want, is our people to be empowered, our young people. And 10 two-letter words that are very important. And if it is to be, it is up to me. So think about that, 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. So what will you do to make that happen? Your dream, your position, but what footprints do you want to leave? So again, we all have role models. We all have mentors. We can't do anything by ourselves. We need to be able to ask for help and utilize the community and our elders' knowledge to help us in that path. So a lot of what we're dealing with is resiliency. And when you think of resiliency, why do we have to be resilient as Native people? Why do we have to be resilient as people with disabilities? Well, that's unfortunate, because we're dealing with some challenges that we should not have had to deal with, unfortunately. So again, as Native people, we're automatically resilient because we've gone through significant attempts at eliminating our culture. Chief Seattle said it wonderfully. Humankind is not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together, all things connect. And that's mitaku yasin. That is, we are all related. That is our perspective as Native people. So when you think of balance, what is it? It's direction, wellness, health, lifestyle, whatever it might be, the Mother Earth, mind, body, soul, heart, it's all part of what is balance from your perspective. And we've had, the presenters have already shared a lot of this, so I'll go through this one quickly so that, but these are the 4 human elements. So the mental, the physical, emotional, and spiritual. And there we are as two-legged, as human beings, spinning around in that circle. And how do we maintain balance within these elements? And here we are together working on our mental capacities. And when you're in school, hopefully you'll be back in the classroom soon after we manage this pandemic, but you're still learning through distance like we are today together. So again, what are you doing to fill your brain with something positive today? What is it going to be? Something new in knowledge? Will you learn a new word in your language? Will you read a book that you were thinking about reading? Whatever it might be, what can you do to improve your mental capacity, your brain? Here's our spiritual connection. Wayne and I use the Lakota way, medicine wheel philosophy, and using the sweat lodge and some of our traditional spiritual ceremonies for balance. Also, there's religions that people use, and that's fine too. You may have gone to Christianity for your balance if you don't have the traditional knowledge as well. So again, these activities, the ceremonies that we do in our communities are very important, and you're representing in a good way by connecting to your spiritual, to our grandfather, our Bitakue Oyasid, we're related to our spirit world as well. So when you think of emotions, and I know today with all of our electronics and digital and cell phones, we often can say, I love you with a tap of a little cartoon button or an emoji. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say cartoon. But again, our emotional connection, and this is a wonderful tool because I use it as well. It's nice to just send my grandson an emoji of blowing him a kiss or giving him a hug or just saying I love you with an emoji. But that doesn't replace the reality of saying those words to your grandparents, to your parents, to your loved ones. So utilize this as a great tool for emotion, but we cannot forget that emotions is part of our heart. It's how we feel and how we perform those day-to-day activities and how we relate to our family and friends as well. And then ultimately physical. Here you see some dancers. They're not only exercising physically, but they are paying respects to Mother Earth. They are paying respects to our way of life, our indigenous knowledge, if you will. So it's wonderful to be able to go powwowing and doing that. Obviously, with the pandemic, we haven't been able to get together, and I haven't been to a powwow. Geez, it's been over a year now. It's amazing how long it's been. But there's like social distance powwow on Facebook. There's other distance or digital powwow groups and native groups that have formed so that you can see beautiful videos of young people and elders sharing their traditional knowledge through singing and drumming and storytelling. So even during this time of COVID and pandemics, we can still share our cultures through these new technologies. It obviously doesn't replace it, but it's a good tool so that we can stay connected. So again, when I think of balance, the power of mind, body, soul, and heart, we have these four human elements, and ultimately these four human elements lead to wellness. So again, if we are balanced within our medicine wheel, and again, this is a Lakota perspective, you have the man in the maze and other circular perspectives in the Arizona tribes as well. So again, this is indigenous knowledge from what I've been taught, from what Wayne's been taught, in terms of how do we look at ourselves within our circles. So if we're at the center of our circle, we're doing well with family community, we're doing well with Mother Earth, and we're doing well with the universe, the star knowledge, the 7 constellations of stars. So as you young people, I don't know if you know that you are sacred beings. From a traditional indigenous perspective, our young ones are sacred beings, and it's the responsibility not only of the family and extended family, but the community. You've heard of the it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that's indigenous knowledge. And so again, this is something we've known for thousands of years. And now our non-Indian brothers and sisters are now writing books about it takes a village to raise a child. And they're starting to see our indigenous tribal knowledge as a viable way of balance. So when you think of the circle, it's always evolving, it's always moving. And it can be in different shapes. You see some of the indigenous housing and indigenous ceremonial grounds, and they match exactly with our star knowledge. So again, our elders, I believe the Hopi with the moon have all the villages lined up. I think it's every 18 or 19 years. Forgive me if I'm wrong in that, but I know that I've learned something regarding during that moon equinox where the shadow of the full moon will be in perfect alignment with the Hopi villages. So all of our indigenous tribes, we had connection not only to Mother Earth, but to the universe and the star knowledge. So again, we need to have more native astronauts and get out there because you have that indigenous knowledge in your DNA, and who knows what we would get with a native astronaut out there. I know there's some out there, and we're going to get more with our young people. Both Wayne and I like Einstein. We think he was a tribal member in a past life. But when you look at his theory of relativity and some of the things that he says, it's very indigenous in base, in roots. And then you see some of these indigenous symbols that were made thousands of years ago that match up with our star knowledge and Einstein's theory of relativity. So again, Here are the various types of circles. And a circle doesn't need to be like planet Earth. It can be a spire or a tornado. So you see a DNA strand is also circular in motion there. You see the Mother Earth and its rotation. You see storms. And obviously Mother Earth is unbalanced right now because we see a lot of change in the climate. So again, this indigenous knowledge we need to apply more today. And I did a class for Alaska. So here's some Alaska Village um, folks that are doing their drumming and dancing and staying in balance with Mother Earth from their perspectives up in Alaska. So again, indigenous knowledge, we just saw a video on some hoop dancers. I feel hoop dancers are some of the greatest athletes in the world from a coaching perspective. And then from a spiritual native indigenous perspective, I see a beauty of cultural indigenous knowledge. So for those of you who are singing and drumming and dancing and telling stories, and if you haven't learned that yet, that's okay. Because as I said, it's never too late to learn. That is what empowerment is. How can we be empowered to do the best we can in whatever we choose to do in life? So again, can you make your dream into a job? I've been very fortunate that my job is my dream. What I'm doing today, I'm living my dream by doing what I can to make a better world for future generations. And that's what all of you are doing in some capacity. What can I do to make a better life for my kids? What can I do to make a better life for myself so that I can be a positive example for future generations? And what are your habits? You know, think about those habits and what are the habits that may be helping you achieve your dream? And what are those habits that we all have that we need to get rid of? You know, mine is a sweet tooth. I'm always battling weight. So I'm always having to stay away from my M&Ms and things that I like, chocolate I'm addicted to. So I got to stay away as best I can. So again, reduce those bad habits and increase the good habits, but take a moment and think about what are those habits that you have and what can you do to manage those habits so that you obtain that strength, that empowerment. And again, it's an influence or power possessed by a person, that strength within you. And that's what I believe is we have that strength. And if we remember our ancestors, that strength will come with us as well. Chief Joseph said it perfectly. Treat all men alike, give them the same law, give them an even chance to live and grow. So this is something for all our men and women in terms of our two-legged species. Is this is something that we all have within us. Here's our four-legged resilience, and that's empowerment. What kind of empowerment can you bring from our four-leggeds? Here's our community, our Tioshpae four-leggeds that are living resiliently, getting through those obstacles. Here's our river relatives, the salmon from my wife's tribe in Hoopa, as well as Alaska tribes and the northwestern tribes. They have a lot of salmon. And what they do to keep their species going is an example of resilience. And our land and sea relatives that live both on land and sea are resilient with the skills that they have living in two worlds. So what is your resilience? You know, think about what you have within yourself. You may not think it now. I know that when I was young, I didn't have the confidence that I do today. And I was bullied and I was different and I was chubby. So I got picked on and bullied. Now there's more protection. Don't be afraid to ask for help because those bullies don't have the power that they used to. Be strong in terms of asking for help and always know those ancestors are with you, because being resilient is to have strength and toughness, being native. So the remarkable aspect of being native is we're still here today. So again, when you think of disability, it might be vocational rehabilitation if you want a good job. So many of our tribes have vocational rehab programs. And I love vocational rehab because it's the definition of empowerment. It's what you want to do for a job. So think of, can your dream become a good job? You know, personally, have you decided to work or go to school or do good things, regardless of your circumstance or disability? And in our families, I was very lucky to have supportive parents and parents that were there for me and family. I know not all of you have that. but there is Tioshbae. There's many others out there that you can make an extended family and bring good people around you. You don't want to be piddling around with the pigeons when you need to be soaring with the eagles, right? Sometimes you have to soar alone as a Wombly, as an eagle, but you will find other eagles out there. Don't lose hope. What makes you strong? So again, balanced wellness, internal locus of control from a psychological aspect is all based in our resiliency and balance. So the capacity to recover quickly. So again, that's who we are as Native people. That's who we are as people with disabilities. We have to be resilient because there's always going to be barriers and obstacles for Native culture as well as disability culture. But how can we overcome those? So let me check my timing here. I may go through this one quick. Historical trauma is something that we all have faced in Indian country. And my brother, Dr. Don Warne, he is a medical doctor and he does great work in the world of medicine. But this is something that he developed regarding historical trauma and some of those adverse childhood effects that can happen. Boarding schools was very damaging to us. Essentially, they were trying to take the Indian culture out of us as people. And so many negative aspects and trauma came from those boarding schools. Today, the boarding schools are much better because they're run by Native people and they're not trying to take away our culture, but they're trying to keep our culture. But unfortunately, the boarding schools back then did a lot of different horrible things that caused adverse childhood experiences and effects. So again, abuse, neglect, substance abuse in the home, could be mental illness. We can't be afraid to ask for help if we're having trouble emotionally or mentally. That's something where the medical field is getting much better at serving not only children, but adults that are still numbing the pain as was shared before. Some of you might be thinking of numbing the pain with substances, but I think you can eliminate the pain with culture, with empowerment, with indigenous knowledge. So again, these are the next generational aspects. How can we reduce the next generation of adverse childhood experiences? And some of you are dealing with that, but it's something that you have strength and again, there's people out there to help. Please don't be afraid to ask for help. I had many mentors, coaches, teachers, elders, grandparents, parents that helped me. So please don't be afraid to ask for help. Here's our traditional model of education, our elders. These were our educators. Again, it takes a village. Things changed in the boarding schools. As you see, things went to a different way, kind of what we have today in American education. And it all started by Colonel Pratt. And he was at the prison at Fort Marion, and these were Apache prisoners. And this is where he first started proposing education for Native people. So here is historic Black college and university that accepted Indian people. Carlisle is one of the most famous schools in history. And you see all these Indian kids. When you look at this image, what do you see? I know we had a powerful image of the Hopi prisoners that were in prison because they wanted to keep their culture. Is this a prison or is this a school? Do you see happy faces? Are these kids feeling safe, valued? This is something that many of our elders had to go through. And their resiliency is they're still here today to share their stories with us. So again, these are some of the aspects of the boarding school era that did a lot of damage. When you think of a boarding school, you usually don't think of cemeteries. But unfortunately, in Indian country, that's a reality for us, as many of our kids perished and died as a result of abuse or suicide or attempted escape or the beatings that went too far. These unknown graves, those poor little sacred ones that were not treated as sacred beings. We can never forget them. We must always remember them. Here at Haskell, my son was going to be going to Haskell. and you see the children's handcuffs that they used for our young ones back in the old days. And when you see kids handcuffed today, it makes the news. So you see these kids that are dealing with emotional disability or encounters with police. That's something where it can't be criminalized, our mental health. What can we do to do a better job so we're not going back to the old ways of children's handcuffs? Here's a cemetery at Haskell. Here's one of our young Lakota children that perished at that school. So again, these schools obviously did a lot of damage. A lot of kids perished literally, and a lot of the culture perished by design as a result of these boarding schools. So these are the historical traumatic events that we keep talking about. You know, this is something now that we're gaining our original population finally before Columbus. These are low estimates. I tend to believe the estimates were higher than 5 million. Up to 20 million is what I think it was, and from my personal perspective. But again, we're approaching what we were before the oppression. So now we've gone through these oppressive historical events. And again, we as Native people, we are still here. You are here today. You are addressing resiliency right now. So this is a great day in terms of your training as you're getting some new tools for your toolkit. So take a piece of paper and just draw a circle and put a cross in the middle there. And then just identify some of the things that you want to do in your mental, spiritual, emotional, or physical realms. Again, these are some of the quotes that I found from Indian country. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave, from my Dakota brothers and sisters. So again, what kind of footprints are you going to leave in this world? And here I give an example of self-reflection within your circle. So what are you doing to improve mentally? Well, I'm going to read something every day. Even if it's just 2 pages, I'm going to have 2 more pages of knowledge as a result, and practicing my reading skills. Physically, as I shared, I have a sweet tooth, so I gotta stop sugar, or at least slow down on it. I do have a candy bar every once in a while, but not as often as I used to. Emotionally, I'm a grandparent now, so it's wonderful when the Tokojas come over, my grandchildren, and I get to hug my grandchildren. That's something emotionally that they're feeling and as they develop in their developmental years. But as a grandparent, as a grandpa, I get the emotional strength from being able to hold the next generation in my arms. And COVID has been very impactful for many of our elders that haven't had the ability to hug their young ones. But it's coming if we do our part. It's coming soon. So sing songs or prayer or whatever in the spiritual realm that you want to improve upon. So within that circle, just write 3 or 4 things in the mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional that you want to improve upon. So again, just identify some of those similarities that might be in the mental or emotional realms. Think about your strengths, what you do every day to keep moving in a good way. And always think outcome. Whatever you're doing today, what is the outcome of these activities? Is it leading to my dream? Am I part of the community? How does the community see me as a person, as an Oyate? So again, these are just something that I share with the medicine wheel philosophy, the circular philosophy, in terms of what you can identify in your circle. So what are your goals? You know, what are you going to do to make those goals happen? As we move on into healthcare, the average death rate in South Dakota is 81. But as I said, the average for reservations for Indian people in South Dakota is 54, and even lower on the reservation at 48 for men on Pine Ridge. Why is this? Healthcare. So we all have our experiences with Indian Health Service, but as you see here, Indian Health Service is funded at the lowest level as compared to Medicare, Veterans, Medicaid, and Bureau of Prisons. So Bureau of Prisons are prisoners, and I'm glad because I have family members in prison, and I'm glad that they have health care, but why do they have double the health care as Indian people? So again, just identify some of those similarities that might be in the mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional that you want to improve upon. So again, This is something I think you all should be aware of as young people, as future advocates, as future leaders, is this cannot be continual. If we were funded at the same level as the federal prisons, IHS would double their budget. So let's hope that's something we can change in the future. So with the disability rate, again, we have high rates of disability. It could be emotional, it could be mental. It's different rates, different things that we're dealing with. Now with COVID, we got to be prepared for post COVID-19 disability. At Oyate Circle, we're preparing for the new disability issues that will be a result of COVID-19, not only with the respiratory and some of the cardiac issues, but the mental and emotional issues as a result of COVID-19. And again, when we think of pandemics, we've been through these before. So Jeffrey Amherst, it's well documented that he utilized germ warfare and instructed his officers to infect tribes back in the colonial days. So here we are today dealing with another form of germ warfare in terms of now we need to protect our own nations. Finally, Navajo Nation has been identified as a federal emergency zone. So now they have access to more federal services to help with the pandemic. So here you see what Navajo Nation, what they're doing to educate their community and to protect their community with checkpoints, like we do back home on Pine Ridge. These are our COVID-19 checkpoints in South Dakota, and this one's on Pine Ridge. So this is another reality that we're dealing with in Indian country. In South Dakota, the governor wanted us to stop these checkpoints and try to order us to stop. But fortunately, as tribal sovereign nations, we can do what we want to protect our people. So we continued with these checkpoints. My wife's tribe in California, the governor there supplied a Department of Transportation signs so that they could identify that tribal lands are closed to outsiders and please drive through to protect the elders and the community. So again, depending on the state you live in and the political circumstance, those are some of the things that you'll have to be dealing with future pandemics and of course our current pandemic that we're dealing with. And here's some Alaska children that were orphaned as a result of our Spanish flu 100 years ago. And so now 100 years later, we're having more orphans as a result because we've lost too many of our elders in Indian country as a result. So how do we deal with this new trauma of the pandemic and some of the disabilities that will be a result of the pandemic? Well, it's our indigenous knowledge, our resiliency, and our thousands of years of healing and culture. Remember, we've been doing these things for thousands of years. So talking circles and elders and spiritual leaders, our ceremonies, our songs, our dances, our just who we are as Native people. And then in Indian humor, we always gotta laugh in Indian country. So it's wonderful that we have, I think the Indian humor was a good emotional tool, a balancing tool for dealing with trauma. And so remember, you are all resilient. And this is to our young ones. Remember, you will represent your ancestors in a good way. You're doing that today by being with us right now. Today, you've decided to learn something new, to be with us and to fill your toolkit with new tools to achieve your dreams. And again, don't be afraid to ask for help. Tioshpae is our community. It's our people, our village, our family, our culture, which lead to positive outcomes if we utilize our traditional knowledge and our elders and incorporate that every day. So again, Sitting Bull said it perfectly. Let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. And that's what we're all in it for, is future generations. And today we're focusing on you, our young people. So the young people that are attending today, Palamia, Washtelo, you are strong, proud Native people. And I'm very proud of you because you're here with us today. And I look forward to the work and the changes that you'll make in future generations. So I'm going to close with a video that I did for Fox Sports. And this was shown on Thanksgiving Day. and re-shown on Martin Luther King Day. So it's been shown twice on Fox. And the Martin Luther King speech is something that I've loved for many years and dreamed of making speeches like that. And when he says, I have a dream, his I have a dream speech, the Fox producers, when he says, we will not be judged by the color of our skin, they use my image in that scene. And that was a very proud moment for me. Another dream come true, if you will. And I'll go ahead and share this, and then we can do some questions and answers afterwards. So this was shown originally on Thanksgiving and then again on Martin Luther King holiday.
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Change can be difficult. It is often feared and fought. But there is beauty in change. It moves us. It transforms us if we allow it. A nation forever changed by one man's dream and the strength of those who stood beside it. It is up to us. We must be the change. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Over the last year, we've seen the power the sports world has to create change, and that's why we're here today. It's fitting that on Martin Luther King Day, we're debuting Fox Sports Voices. Dr. King's fight for respect encompassed all cultures. In fact, he worked with Native American tribes in Alabama in the late 1950s and wrote about the genocide of indigenous peoples in America in the early 60s. This past year, we saw little dignity brought to Native Americans when the Washington football team decided to no longer use them as mascots. Yet, as ex-NFL player Jim Warne told us in a piece that first aired on Thanksgiving, there's far more to the struggles of his fellow Native Americans than just the team name. I never did play for a team with a Native mascot, but I played against teams with Native mascots. So obviously I was a target of people that wanted to say things like scalp the Indian or cut your hair. When we hear that term red skin, we know that it's a term of our pelts, our scalps, that were bounties that were paid to bounty hunters. This negative imagery is getting most of the press, yet there's deeper issues in Indian country. We learn a lot about genocide in other countries, but we don't learn about the genocide that happened here. Back in 1890, the 7th Cavalry really wanted to get us back for Custer's last stand. When you look at the Wounded Knee gravesite, my family is number 18 on that list of families that perished that day. Being an American citizen, many of us don't have that experience of visiting a mass grave, of feeling that trauma from many generations ago. Pine Ridge, my home reservation, is the poorest county in the United States. So the average family income is under $10,000 per year. Unfortunately, Indian country has the highest rate of COVID-19 in the world. And when I go home and I hear of the people that are passing away just because they can't keep themselves warm, that's something that's very challenging. When you think of Paha Sapa, which means Black Hills, that's our sacred land. U.S. policy saw that our culture, our ceremonies were savage and heathen. So we could have been singing a song for happy birthday or a wedding, and they saw it as war drums. Black Elk said it would take 7 generations to heal our circle after Wounded Knee. So as we gather on this special holiday, let's give thanks for inclusion. Let's give thanks for culture. Let's give thanks for who we are as two-leggeds. The movement continues. In December, the Cleveland Indians announced that they will change the team name after the 2021 baseball season.
In sports, there's always another bigger and better, but in activism, you can definitely leave your mark.
It's a way to make the biggest impact you can ever
me. Well, we've highlighted today many examples, but they're just a few of them of what athletes are doing positively to try and shape the world we live in, much like Dr. King inspired everyone to do. We're proud to present to you these stories and let you hear their voices. For Michael Strahan and everyone involved, I'm Kurt Menefee. Thank you for watching.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Thank you for letting me share with you some of my dreams. And it's been a wonderful experience to be with you here today. And I have a dream, as Martin Luther King said, that Native people will be fully included, regardless of disability, regardless of tribe, just regardless of anything, that we as Indigenous people will be natural, prominent parts of American contemporary culture. And your generation, the young generation of today, I see as a strong seventh generation that will make great footprints, great wheel prints, whatever print that you leave, you're gonna leave good footprints to lead us forward together as a Tioshpae, as a community of Indigenous people. So thank you, young people. You are a wonderful generation. That's a wonderful time for you to be here, because the changes that we as elders in training get to watch you do, and we're here to help you. So please don't be afraid to ask us for help, because we are proud of you, we love you, and it's wonderful to see the things that you're doing. And I look forward to see what you'll be doing in the future. So to our young ones, keep up the good fight, as we say. Always be strong, be proud of who you are. And again, as my grandfather would say, you know, that you and my father is, you will do the best you can under the circumstances. So again, we all have circumstances, maybe disability or poverty or family life, whatever it might be. Think of the ancestors, think of your strength, think of your resiliency as a Native person. Never forget that you are strong. Palami Awashtelo. Thank you so much.